Hello everyone, welcome to our video. This is a video of one of the most sophisticated radio replacement units available for your 2016 to 2023 Toyota Tacoma. Not only is this unit equipped with the most desired features and functions, but it's also packed with the latest technology for a true in-car entertainment solution. We're going to be going over every single little detail about this unit, from everything that's included in the box, to the hard buttons that are on the face of the unit, to the factory fit and finish, and all the plugs that are directly behind the unit. For starters, you're going to get a welcome letter. On that letter, you will find contact information, a phone number, and an email address for you to reach out to somebody should you have any questions or concerns regarding installation or any given feature or function. Now, before we go on, we want to make sure that you understand that this video is not just made to provide you with information. The people that you're going to be talking to when reaching out to any one of these numbers or this email address is people who have industry experience, that know the vehicle, understand the installation, understand the programming aspect, and have been involved with the development process of this unit. Now let's go over all of the harnesses and plugs that are included with this unit. Everything you see here is included in the box, starting with 4 different antenna connections. The first one is your Wi-Fi antenna. This is designed to provide Wi-Fi hotspot from your mobile device to the unit itself. There are 2 4G LTE antennas. These 2 antennas are going to work in junction with a SIM card capability that this unit has. This head unit has the ability to connect to a cellular network, so that way you don't ever have to worry about a Wi-Fi hotspot connection from your phone to this unit. It'll always be connected to a network. The 4th antenna that you see here is a GPS antenna. If you want to use Google Maps, Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, or any other applications like weather that require GPS location from the unit, that's what the GPS antenna is going to do for you. Next, a microphone right over here. The microphone happens to have 2 different mounting solutions. It's got one where you can just peel this off and stick it to the windshield in the upper A-pillar location where the A-pillar meets with the windshield. You can mount it there. Or it also has a clip-on, so what you could do is you can pull the one that sticks to the windshield off, and you can use the one that will clip on to the A-pillar plastic panel that's located on the A-pillar. Next, underneath this white rag, this is just designed for you to use to be able to wipe the screen if you ever have to use it. You also have 2 different bolts that are designed to hold the unit in place. As you can see, there's 2 bolt holes right over here. These 2 bolt holes are going to match up with the mounting holes that the factory radio used to mount to. And then we're going to talk about this little SIM card holder in a different section. But next, there's an antenna adapter. This is going to plug into the back of this unit. This is going to plug in to the factory antenna plug that comes with your vehicle. And this here is a power antenna wire. We'll show you where this goes on a different section. You're also going to have 2 different USB connections. They both have the red plug because you're not going to use both at the same time. You're going to use one or the other depending upon what generation Toyota Tacoma you have. As you can tell, one of the ends is different depending on which generation Tacoma you have, but the other end is the same. This is designed for wired Android Auto. CarPlay happens to be only wireless. Now, right over here, this is off-white. It's not white, it's an off-white plug. These are your pre-outs. This is your front, rear, and subwoofer outputs should you choose to add aftermarket amplifiers to your new head unit. It also has the microphone antenna plug. This is where the microphone is going to plug into. Next, you're going to have this black plug. This black plug houses the inputs to the 3 camera inputs that this new unit has the ability to process. So it has a rear camera input, a side camera input, and a front camera input. It also has the ability to provide you with power to each one of those cameras. Typically, when you mount any aftermarket camera, the camera will have a power wire and a video wire along the same cable. And that usually ends up behind the radio, so that you don't have to look for where to get your power from. We have decided that we will provide you with your respective power connection to that camera should you decide to add them later or at the time of the initial installation. Next, you'll see this green plug. This plug is called a DVR cable. This plug right here has a constant 12 volt out. It has an ignition 12 volt out and a ground source. You can plug something in here that can drain up to a maximum of 4 amps. This is your AV-in, auxiliary audio video input cable. This is in case you want to add an external DVD player, or you want to add something else like the auxiliary audio in from factory, and a 4th video input, whichever you choose to do. This one with the purple plug is your Toslink output. Now, a lot of people may or may not know what this is. It is generally called as a SPDIF output cable. You'll hear some people say it and they'll say SPDIF. They'll say, does it have a SPDIF output? And what they're saying is, does this unit have the ability to connect to higher end DSP processors that today exist in the automotive electronics industry? Companies like JL Audio will make a real high-end DSP processor that only takes a fiber optic Toslink SPDIF cable in. Well, this unit has the ability to do that for you. Next, we're going to talk about the AC climate controls. If you notice, your factory radio used to be here. Your factory climate controls used to be down here. Well, this unit is now going to not just take over your factory radio location. It's going to take over your factory radio location and your AC climate controls. So we need to have the ability to address the 2 different AC climate controls that exist within the 2016 to 2023 Toyota Tacoma. Whether you have manual AC controls or auto AC controls, these are the 2 different cables you're going to use. You're not going to use both at the same time. You're going to use one or the other. Right over here is a secondary USB input that the unit comes with. You can have a memory stick with music videos, movies already preloaded onto it, and it's always plugged into your USB input, non-disturbed by any of the other audio sources. This input can handle up to a terabyte size hard drive. Now, you'll notice over here, there's 2 different types of main power cables. Depending upon what generation Toyota Tacoma you have, the side that plugs into the radio is the same on both, but the side that goes to the car has 2 different type of power connections. This is the older 16 to 22 Toyota Tacomas, where they had the 6 and 10 pin power speaker connectors, and this is the newer 2023 type connectors that has this for power, and this is your speaker plug. And in addition to, we're going to be dissecting these harnesses so you can understand what each one of these wires does, what they represent, and what you can and can't do with them. If you decide to use them, that's perfectly fine. You don't have to. Most of these single wires really aren't going to get used for much, except for your power antenna connection. This is the one that we said we're going to be talking about in a later section, but this is going to connect to the antenna connection that needs a power wire to be able to boost your FM and AM reception. And last but not least, we're going to talk about the CAN bus module. This is what makes all the magic happen. This is what makes this aftermarket radio maintain all of the factory radio vehicle control functions, let's not forget that your factory radio has the ability to control certain vehicle features and functions. And there's no point if once you take that out, you're going to lose all those features. This is what allows you to maintain the factory backup camera, the factory 360 camera if your Toyota Tacoma is equipped with it, the factory steering wheel controls, and any other vehicle control functions like daytime running lights, how long your lights stay on after you turn the ignition off, so on and so forth. What's one of the beauties about this particular kit is it's a self-contained kit. You don't need any third-party integration modules. You don't need any third-party dash kits. You don't need any third-party antenna adapters. It's all in one kit, ready to go the day you receive it. So that was a real brief description of everything that's included in the box. What we're going to do now is we're going to get a close-up look at the unit itself. We're going to look at the factory-like fit and finish. We're also going to be going over the hard buttons that are on the side of the screen, and we're going to be going over the screen layout and where you can find different things. So this is a close-up of the face of this unit. One of the cool things that I like is the factory two-tone finish. This is going to match the driver's side vent and the passenger side vent. One of the cool things is the chrome trim rings, just like the factory dash panel has it. The vents that are in here, you're going to be pulling out of the factory panel, and we'll show you how they get inserted into here. Now that's as far as the finish, two-tone just like the factory, the chrome trim rings just like the factory. Your hazards button has now been relocated over here. This is your passenger airbag indicator, as well as the security theft LED that the factory AC control panels has. Now, down here, you're going to notice these blanks. One of them is designed for your push to start button. If your truck is equipped with a push to start button, this simply pops out, and this is where you would be reinserting that. The one right next to it is your two-wheel drive, four-wheel drive selector. This pops out, and this is where you would be inserting those buttons. If your vehicle isn't a four-wheel drive and you don't have a push to start, but you have the key to start, then these blanks will simply stay in place and you're not going to be removing them. Now let's get a little closer and go over the buttons that you have right outside of the screen. So what you have here is AC power on and off. This is what turns on your AC compressor. You have your fan speed up, fan speed down. Here's the mode button that basically controls the air circulation, where you want the air to come through. This is your recirculation button. Over here is your rear defrost. You have temperature up, temperature down, and a quick mute button. Now, these are the hard buttons that are found on the face of this unit. Keep in mind that you're also going to have digital controls, soft touch buttons on the screen itself. Now let's get a little closer and go over the buttons that you have right outside of the screen. So what you have here is AC power on and off. This is what turns on your AC compressor. You have your fan speed up, fan speed down. Here's the mode button that basically controls the air circulation, where you want the air to come through. This is your recirculation button. Over here is your rear defrost. You have temperature up, temperature down, and a quick mute button. Now, these are the hard buttons that are found on the face of this unit. Keep in mind that you're also going to have digital controls, soft touch buttons on the screen itself. So that's where all of the climate control buttons are, as far as the hard buttons that are on the face of the unit. But like we said, there's different ways to access your AC climate controls. There's the soft touch buttons. Allow us to show you what those are. So in addition to the hard buttons on the left and on the right side of the screen, you're going to have temperature up, temperature down buttons for both driver and passenger if you happen to have the two-zone dual climate controls on your factory panel. You can also do right over here, you could do the climate button and open up a climate page. This is going to control fan speed up, fan speed down. Here's your mode button, and then you have the front defrost as well as the different ventilation options. Right down here you have your recirculation button, your rear defrost, your max AC, your AC compressor on and off, the power button, which also serves the same purpose as this one does. So back to the home page, down here you also have the recirculation function. You have the mode button right here. You have your front defrost options. So there's different ways for you to access your climate controls. There isn't just one way. It's whatever you like. It's whatever you prefer. From the home screen, you can also swipe up and you can access your AC climate controls by pressing the app labeled climate. Ultimately, the thought process behind all of this is when you're driving, you want to have easy access buttons that you could just reach and push to be able to control your AC climate controls. You don't want to have a touch screen where you need to look to find a button. You could just reach, feel, and find a button without having to look down. You could just reach for it. Ultimately, that's the idea. Now, within the same area over here, if you look right above the climate controls, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different functions on the screen. So in addition to you having your steering wheel controls volume up, volume down, track up, track down, you also have them here. You have volume up. You also have your home button right over here. So regardless of where you are on the unit itself, that home button is the one that's going to bring you back. You have the ability to get into different things like settings, for example. If we go into audio, the back arrow is going to bring us back to the home screen as well. This particular 4 buttons here will open up every single one of the applications that are on your unit. And the more you start adding applications by downloading them from the Play Store, the more you'll be able to swipe up on your different applications. This button right over here is going to open up every single one of the apps that you have opened. That's what this button here is going to do. Back to the home button. So let's talk about more on-screen options. We talked about volume up and down on your steering wheel controls. You also have volume up and down on the touch screen here. The minute you push the button once to turn up the volume or a few times to turn the volume down, you'll be able to grab the button that's right here on the dial itself, and you'll be able to also control volume up, volume down like this. If you swipe down from the home screen, this is also volume up and volume down. So there's different ways for you to control one function. Once again, it's not just one way. It's whatever you prefer, whatever you feel most comfortable with. Ideally, this is here us just showing you all the different ways to be able to do one different function. So let's talk about some more on-screen functions. At the very top here, you have a dimmer function, 3 different steps. This happens to be number 3. So there's number 1, there's number 2, and there's number 3. That's brightness adjustments. You can also swipe down from the top of the screen, and right over here you're gonna have a bar that's gonna allow you to address and change the dimmer function to your own preference. You can also swipe down, black out the screen with this button. The radio is still on, music is still playing, the screen just happens to be blacked out. You push it again, it's gonna come right back on. Following the next button, this is shortcut to your Google Maps. This is Google Maps that's located on the unit itself. This is not your Android Auto Google Maps or your Apple CarPlay Google Maps. This is a shortcut to music applications. So this is what you have plugged into the USB input via a thumb drive or some kind of a hard drive. This is a shortcut button to your Bluetooth functionality. If you have your phone connected to it and you don't want to use Apple CarPlay, you don't want to use Android Auto, but you still want to have the Bluetooth functionality, that's what you're going to use. Right next to that, this is your video playback option. So these 2 buttons is video playback on your thumb drive. This is music playback on your thumb drive. This here is shortcut access to your applications. That's the same thing as going up from the home screen. That's the same thing as pressing these 4 buttons over here on the home screen. So essentially, we circle back to talking about the different ways of accessing one different function. This over here is shortcut to your Apple CarPlay or your Android Auto. This is the application that you would use to pair and connect your phone to CarPlay or your phone to Android Auto. So that's a brief summary of the screen layout. At the very top, you have your shortcuts. Right on the upper half of the screen, you have your Google Maps. Once we hook up this unit to a Wi-Fi hotspot, you'll be able to see what this does. When you press the maps, it's going to open up your Google Maps. You're going to have here on the left a weather application that's going to give you weather, time, and date right up at the top. And this is going to be status of what you're playing, whether it's a music video or a song off of your thumb drive. This is what that's going to monitor. And then you have your quick audio and different home screen playback volume controls. And on the bottom portion of the screen, you're going to have your AC climate controls. Now, the last thing I want to talk about is mounting this unit onto your dash. It's very important to pay attention to this when looking at what's available for your Toyota Tacoma. This unit doesn't only snap back into place, it comes with 2 bolts long enough to insert right in here, and they're gonna reach the area where your factory radio used to mount. It is an L key, but I've used a T30 bit to tighten them up, no problem. They insert here. Once you push them in, you'll feel them stop. They're gonna be about yay deep. You're gonna then take your T30 bit and you're gonna tighten them back into place. This is very important because if you like to go off-roading, you don't want to depend on a unit of this caliber, a screen of this quality, to only depend on a couple of clips that get snapped onto your dash. You want to make sure that it's safer, that it's more secured, that it's not going to go anywhere, that it's not another thing you're going to have to worry about when you're off-roading. So that's very important, and I really like how they're matte black and they blend right in to the matte black background that's on that part of the bezel. So now that we've gone over the harnesses, what's included in the package, on-screen layout, hard buttons, mounting, allow us to flip this unit around and show you what's on the backside as far as connections. We're also going to be at the same time making some connections to the Wi-Fi antennas, the GPS antennas. We're going to even insert a SIM card onto the SIM card holder so you know what that process entails and what it takes and what the unit looks like once it's connected to a cellular network. We're also going to be going over all the different connections. We're going to be going over the antenna adapters and everything else so that you get familiar with this. So when it comes to you receiving this unit in your door and you're ready to install it into your vehicle, you're going to tackle this like you've done it 300 times. All right, so here's the back side of the unit, starting with the stems where the mounting bolts come through. It's not just a surface with a hole in it that has the ability to put some screws in there that'll reach where the factory radio mounts. These stems actually extend, so when you tighten those bolts, it's not just plastic being pressed in without any support behind it. There's definitely some support behind the stems that the bolts use to be able to mount this unit in place. Right over here, this is the manual AC climate control plug, and this right here is the auto AC control plug. The manual utilizes both. The auto AC only uses this one. Now, one of my other favorite things is this. When it comes to installing these units, typically every unit in the market, whether it's a radio like this one or it's a dash kit from a different manufacturer, usually they make you remove the clips from your factory panel and transfer them over. Not this unit. This unit actually includes the clips so that the clips that are on your factory panel stay intact. You don't have to transfer them over. They're included onto this panel. It just never fails that as installers, we get through with an installation, and when it comes to mounting this unit in the dash, we go, darn it, we forgot the clips. And that's another 15, 25, 30 minutes that we have to spend transferring over clips depending on how many you need. And as you can tell in here, there's a total of 12 different clips or 11 different clips that you can see on this unit. So here we have the main power speaker connector of this unit. This is the main power plug. This is the one where you're going to be using either the one that's got the newer type power speaker connectors, or you're going to be using the one that's got the older type power speaker connectors, but they both have the main plug that's going to go right in there with the locking tab facing up. Now, right to the right of that, you have your HDMI output. This is if you want to add, maybe you're building an overland vehicle with your Toyota Tacoma, and you want to take the video out of this and connect it to an external TV that you might have come down from your tent, or you just want to do headrest monitors. You can also take that HDMI output and feed it into there. This is the Wi-Fi antenna connection. This is the GPS antenna connection. And this here are the two 4G LTE antenna connections. You need both for your unit to receive a cellular network signal through the SIM card holder. Talking about the SIM card holder, this unit actually has a SIM card holder with a cable long enough to go into your glove box to run down towards the driver's side kick panel, just in case you're not ready to add a SIM card upon the initial installation and you maybe want to get a SIM card later. Now, right over here is your AM/FM antenna connections. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to go over the different plugs that are on this grid. But as I do that, I'm going to add all of the different antennas as well as the connectors that are in here so you could see where every single one of them goes. So let's start with the AC climate control plugs. In this case, I'm going to show you the two different ones that come in the package. They are labeled. It'll say 2016 Tacoma manual AC cable. If you notice, that's a two-ended cable. The one that says 2016 Tacoma auto AC cable also has two ends, but it also has a third plug coming off of it. That's because on the CAN bus module, this CAN bus module, one side of this CAN bus module is going to take the plug from the AC auto climate controls. In the manual AC climate control type setup, you're not going to be using this side of the CAN bus plug. So this is going to simply plug into the back of the unit right on this plug, and then the other end is going to connect to the factory AC plug. Next, what I like to do is I like to mount all of my GPS, Wi-Fi, and 4G LTE antennas onto the inside of the dashboard. And what I like to do is bring all of my connectors out together so that I don't miss any of them. So I would do my Wi-Fi antenna connection first. I would then do the GPS antenna connection. And then last, I would do the 4G LTE antenna plugs. And the reason for this is it's because once you have all these plugs plugged into this grid, those cables fall down, and then it's harder to get to these plugs. Once you have your main power plug, it's harder to get to your Wi-Fi and your GPS antenna connectors. Next, let's talk about the other two cables that are very similar, but you're only going to be using one or the other, not both. So they both have a red plug on the end. There's a short plug that's going to connect to your factory USB connectors. This is so that your factory USB connectors can continue to provide a charging function for you. They are not to be used for wired Android Auto. Remember, CarPlay is only wireless. Now, if you want to use wired Android Auto, you're not going to be using your factory USBs. You're going to be using these USB inputs that are at the end of this cable labeled phone link. So you'll notice that one of them is labeled 2020 Tundra USB, and the other one is labeled Tundra USB harness. That's because this is the same as the 2020 Toyota Tundra USB connector. This is for the 2020 Tacomas and up, and this is for the 2016 to 2019 Toyota Tacomas. That's why it only says Tundra USB harness. So this one is going to connect on this corner here, and that's going to be your factory USB plug, and this is going to run to your glove box. If you decide to get a USB extension from here to your dash that's flush mounted, that's totally up to you. That's all personal preference. Next, we're going to go over the other small connections. This is the other USB input that would normally get used for a USB thumb drive. It's a white plug on one end, and it's a standard USB connector on the other. And this one goes right over here. Now we're going to talk about the off-white connector. Remember, this is your RCA, front, rear, and subwoofer outputs. The cool thing about this particular unit is when you're adding amplifiers to an aftermarket radio, it is important, if you're an audiophile, you want good sound quality. What I like about this unit is that it has 4-volt RCA preamp outputs. That's very important. So if anybody asks or anybody wants to know, they are 4-volt preamp outputs. And this is going to be your front, rear, and sub. So this is your 3 pairs. And it also has the plug for your microphone on it. That one's going to go right next to the white one. And right above this one is going to be your backup camera input harnesses. This is your rear, side, and front camera. And they're labeled. You can see them right here. They are labeled for you. And that's going to go right above this one. Next is your auxiliary audio video input cable. This one here is if you want to add your factory auxiliary audio in to keep it functional. This is where it would plug in, and I'll show you where it comes from as it plugs into here. This is just another video input, and that's going to go right over here. Right below the red one. Next, I like to call this my power output harness, even though it's labeled DVR cable. I like to call this my power output harness because this is where my additional constant ignition and ground outputs are, and that's what I like to call it. And this one's gonna go right in here. And then last but not least, we're gonna have our Toslink audio output. This is a fiber optic audio output signal that this unit has, like we talked about earlier. It's for high-end digital sound processors if you'd like to build a full aftermarket audio system into it. The one that's right in between here, that one stays open. Nothing plugs into that one right there. Let me give you a close-up. so that you could see what goes where. We're going to plug in our AM/FM antenna plug. This end is going to connect to your factory antenna plug that you disconnect from your factory radio. And this is going to go straight into this unit right over here. I'm going to talk about what this blue wire does next. It's called antenna power. So here's the main harness right over here. And this just happens to be the one for the older Toyota radios that have the 6 and 10 pin power speaker connector. So here's the main harness, but if you notice, right in here, we're also going to have a few loose wires. There's these coming off the main harness, and then there's this blue one right over here labeled aux detect. This one you're not going to need no matter what. This here is your factory auxiliary audio in that comes from this harness here. So this auxiliary audio in wires can connect to the AV input harness that you added on here to keep the factory auxiliary audio input functional. So you can take that, plug these into each other to keep your factory auxiliary audio input functional. Next, you'll see this blue wire that says antenna power. Antenna power, all you're going to do is you're going to mate this connector to the blue wire that comes off of the antenna connector. They're the same color and they have the same label. And all you're doing is you're mating those two connectors. That's all you're doing. Next, we're going to look at the yellow male RCA connector that's on this harness right over here. It's labeled reverse camera output. This is output from the car, and this is going to go to the reverse camera input. That's the front. Here's the side, and here's our reverse factory cam input. Take the protector out, plug it in. So this is to maintain your factory backup camera, your factory 360, and that is off of the main harness. That is off of the main harness. Let me zoom out so you can get a better view. So that is off of the main harness. The other wires that are on this particular harness for this application, you're not going to use. What I recommend, keep the gel tips on there, but also add additional tape and tape them to the main harness since you're not going to use them. That way they don't get in the way. Now the other connector that's coming off of this, it clearly says it, to CAN box. So this is going to connect to the other end of the CAN box module like so. Just like that. And then once you're done with that, you're going to take the main plug and plug it into the unit itself. And now all you have to do is your factory connections. We'll go over that as soon as we get into the installation of this particular unit. So here is your power speaker. Here is your factory backup camera, steering wheel control connections, your antenna, your AC, and then all of your other connections are already there. The only thing that's left is the microphone, which is going to connect to your RCA audio output harness, which is right over here. So that's where your microphone is going to connect, and you're going to run this to the 8-pillar instrument cluster, wherever you feel most comfortable. So that's as far as the connections, antennas, and everything else. What we're going to talk about next is the SIM card holder. and I'll give you more details on that on the next section. So there's a couple of things that we'd like to share with you in regards to SIM card. When it comes to a data plan for these units, what's really happening out there today is a lot of these service providers are asking you for a IMEI number. Now, the IMEI number that's inside of these units is unknown to a lot of these Verizon, T-Mobile, AT&T service providers because it's not a Samsung or an Apple unit, so they don't know about these units in their database. So it's basically useless to them. And if you tell them that you're looking for a data plan for a tablet, they're going to ask you for an IMEI number. So it becomes very difficult. It becomes a big hassle to get a SIM card from them. And once you do, you'll load it in there and it may work for a day, it may work for a week, but then after a certain period of time, their system picks up on it being an alien IMEI number and the SIM card stops working. So what we've done is we've partnered up with a rep that'll provide us with SIM cards. We can mail one out to you at no charge, and you'll call them up, they'll go over the different rate plans, and in a matter of 2 minutes, they can have you activated. And that's the same for T-Mobile as well as Verizon. So what I have here, or having said that, what I have here is inside of the package, you're gonna see this little SIM card tray. Because what happens is you may have a SIM card laying around on any one of your existing devices that you can pull out and insert into here, because SIM cards really have 3 different sizes. As you could tell, you have the SIM card, which would be considered small. This black frame is a medium size SIM card, and then this pink frame here would be a large size SIM card. Well, this particular unit takes a medium-sized SIM card. So if you have a small SIM card laying around somewhere, you would need to insert it into the medium frame so you can load it into the SIM card tray. And once you're there, all you have to do is this metal tray here basically slides down, and then it'll flap open like this. You'll notice that the SIM card tray has a notch here on one of the corners, and that's gonna match up to your SIM card notch like that. And all you really have to do is put it in there, close the flap, and slide it up, and close the tray. So all you really have to do is, once you get this unit, if you'd like to get a hassle-free data plan through T-Mobile or Verizon, once you reach out to us in the contact information that's on the card itself, let us know. Send us an email or give us a call. If you don't get an answer, leave a voice message. If you can't call, you can also text that number for any questions or concerns, including SIM card related requests. And one SIM card will be mailed out to you. Once you receive it, you will call the contact information to the rep, and in a matter of minutes, he'll have you up and running. But in this case, we've already loaded one into this unit. What I'm going to do too, just so I could show you additional features and functions, this is a 256 gigabyte memory stick. I have a few music videos, random music videos, maybe a few movies loaded in here. I'm going to leave it plugged in because I'm going to power it back up now that I have a Wi-Fi connection, now that I have a SIM card loaded, now that my GPS antenna is plugged in, now that my Wi-Fi antenna is plugged in. We're going to go over additional features and functions, including how to pair up your iPhone, how to pair up your Android phone so that you could see Apple CarPlay, Android Auto in full effect. And last, we're going to perform an installation. So now that the unit is booting up, remember we have our SIM card loaded in there, our 4G LTE antennas are plugged in, we have a memory stick in there, and so we'll go over a few features and functions to show you how it works once it's connected to a cellular network. So now that the unit is on, it wants to have me sign in to Google Maps and things like that, but it now has my location right down here. And as you could see, it has the 4G signal strength at the top. Right in this section right there. I am indoors, and the signal strength might be a little spotty in here, but ultimately you should be able to do things like launch Google Chrome. You could go into Google, and I do this to show you how snappy the unit is. So that's Google, and so here is my results. I'll do a Google search. For example, this is one of the very famous online car stereo stores, and this is just, here's the results. So this unit is now connected to a cellular network. I'll go back to Google, google.com. Boom, there's Google. I'll search things like SEMA 2024 and then hit enter. There's my results and everything regarding that. So now this unit is connected to the internet. And I like this because when you're driving, typically you want to search for something, you want to Google something, you want to look something on Google Maps. You don't have to anymore. You could just pull over and search it directly onto your head unit, and you don't have to worry about lag time. You don't have to worry about Wi-Fi hotspot connection. Usually Wi-Fi hotspot, when you get out of the car, turn the ignition off and turn it back on, you have to reconnect every single time, and it becomes kind of a hassle, but it's so convenient once you have your unit hooked up like this. Not to mention, if you have, a YouTube account and you want to, while you're waiting for your spouse, picking them up at work, you want to sit there, watch a few music videos, or you want to watch a movie, you can always do so. So this unit is now hooked up to the internet, and this is how fast it is. Of course, we got to go through ads. And so again, it just opens up a whole new world of possibilities. Fast forward that. So it just opens up a whole new world of possibilities when you have it hooked up to a Wi-Fi network like this. I have no speakers hooked up to it on purpose, just so I could show you basically once this unit is connected to an internet source. Let me do this. I'll kill this and I'll kill that. So before I go on to showing you Apple CarPlay, Android Auto connectivity, this upper section here is obviously a map. It wants me to sign in, but at the very top corner, it has the option to skip. And so I don't mind, you knowing where I'm at, but this is now basically Google Maps. And again, I mean, you could, do certain things with Google Maps. Drive to LAX. And so now it's getting directions, or it wants me to select a terminal, and then it's gonna now start giving me directions on how to get there from where I'm at using Google Maps as soon as I press start. So I'll hit got it. And that's the beauty about being connected to a cellular network. I don't know if you noticed it went from daytime to nighttime because of the time that it is. It now goes into nighttime mode. And so basically, it does that. I'll show you where those features and those functions are in regards to daytime, nighttime, brightness, dimness, and all that stuff. So beyond having this, There's other brightness settings, so I'm going to exit that. I'm going to close Google Maps and that connection. And then what I'm going to do next is I'll show you here inside of the settings. There is, under General, there's a dimmer. This is where you tell it how bright you want it during the day and how bright you want it at night. So in the daytime, it'll be maximum brightness, and in nighttime, it'll be maximum dimness. Now, if I go into System under Android settings, there is this function called Display. So if I touch Display and I go into Night Light, I can also give it that eye comfort setting that iOS devices has, where it'll turn on this yellow tint at night so it makes it more comfortable to look at the screen. And you can tell it how much of that yellow tint you want or how little of it you want, so that once it goes into night mode, you can turn it off and schedule it so that it only comes on at sunset and it turns off at sunrise. So I set it there, and because it's already nighttime, it'll have that yellow tint to it, which is very neat. I really like that function. So at night, it'll have maximum dimness with this yellow tint. So while you're driving, it makes it very easy and very comfortable to look at. And so remember, I had plugged in my 256 gigabyte thumb drive. In here, that's where I'll access, music videos and things like that. So it's gonna start playing a movie, but what I can tell is happening right now, and the reason why I get this, it's because it has the video in motion feature turned on, which means it allows the audio, but it doesn't allow the video. And so you can unlock that if you go into factory settings under System. There's an option that says factory settings. It has a code that you need to be able to get in there. And in there, it's going to have a video in motion function that you need to turn off. Once it's turned off, I can then go back, hit the movie, and now it'll let me view videos that are on my memory stick, for example. And you can pick different ratios. Like, for example, this button here, it's going to give me a full screen, which is very neat. But it is going to be, from what I believe, it'll be a zoomed in version. So let me fast forward that movie. And then if I touch it here, it'll do that. So this is basically 1-to-1 ratio. And you can change that by pushing this button here, shrink to fit, 4:3, 16:9, or 1-to-1 ratio, which is probably the best one. If I then go ahead and press this button here, that's going to take me to the list of movies and music videos that I have. So if I go into music videos, it's going to give me a list of music videos that I have. And what I like is how snappy, how quick this thing responds. So if I come in here and then just pick any music video that I want, for example, if I go with that one, whatever that one is, it's going to start to now play it. And so there's my music video. And so that's off of the USB thumb drive that I have in there, which is pretty cool. I mean, it's just a whole nother level of entertainment. Factory radio wasn't able to do this. And now I am able to do something like this. But don't forget the video in motion function. So if I come in here and or hit the home button, I can still listen to that music video while I'm watching a map, for example, because it's still playing in the background right here. And so if I don't want to watch it, I don't have to. I could just listen to it, and then I can skip tracks, switch to different music videos by doing that. But this is another cool feature to have. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to show you the Apple CarPlay connectivity and how that works through this unit itself. And so what I have here is the unit in the home screen, and I have an iPhone here. It's kind of weird. The 13-inch unit has a faster refresh rate than this 1 terabyte iPhone 14 does. You could see some of the lines on that screen just That's part of the refresh rate that these phones use. So what I'll do is, before I go into pairing mode, remember this is the app that you're going to use to pair your phone. In this case, not Android Auto, but we're going to select Apple CarPlay. Before you connect your phone to Bluetooth, go in here, because over here on this hexagon, when you touch it, there's an option that says allow auto boot. What that's going to do is every time you get out and back into your car, when you turn the ignition back on, it's going to make it so that your Apple CarPlay or Android Auto automatically connect every single time, and that's going to be the first screen that you see. If you leave this function off, it'll connect to Bluetooth, but CarPlay won't launch until you go in and you launch CarPlay manually. That's when it's going to connect. I personally like it so that it always auto connects. So I like turning that function on. Once I do that, I come in here and I'm going to kill that application. I'm then going to go into Bluetooth and I'm going to start the pairing process. So I'm going to hit this chain and I'm going to pair a new device, and I'm going to put my phone into Bluetooth pairing mode. The minute I see my phone name come up, or I see the radio model number come up on my phone, I'm going to touch it. And it's going to ask me if I want to pair. It's going to ask me if I want to allow my contacts, and I said allow. So it now shows it's connected, and it automatically launches Apple CarPlay because I made it so that it auto connects. Always pay attention because it's going to ask you if you want to use CarPlay. So I said yes, and it's going to automatically now launch Apple CarPlay for me. Once that's launched, you'll be able to access all of the different Apple CarPlay applications that obviously CarPlay offers. And since we're in night mode, this is how it goes. My reminders, my applications, right over here. Let me move the phone off to the side. And so this is CarPlay in all of its glory. I then come in here, and if I want full maps, just touch the map, and then you can have it search for directions and different things like destinations. So if I want to go to Grand Rapids, Michigan, I type that, and then I'm going to press the go. It tells me that I'm a day and 6 hours away, and so this would be Apple CarPlay and all of the applications like your YouTube Music, for example. I subscribe to YouTube Premium, so I get YouTube Music on there. And so here is my applications. And so that would be Apple CarPlay. But remember, that's just one app out of everything else that this unit has. All right, and so now that you see an Apple CarPlay and how it connects and how it works, the very next thing that I want to show you would be what makes this unit unique to your vehicle. Now remember, talking about many different ways to do one function, like we could go in here and get to these applications. We could, from the home screen, swipe up and get to these applications. But this is what I wanted to show you. All of the factory radio vehicle control functions are going to be found in one app, and that's called the Car Settings app. So in here is where you're going to find everything that the factory radio had the ability to control, except for now you are doing it with a much bigger screen, a much faster screen, a much better screen. And so this is everything that the factory radio had the ability to control previously, but now you're doing it through a much better head unit itself. And so this is where that information would be. And again, this is just to show you how it is all one unit. It is self-contained. It is ready to go the minute you receive it. You don't have to go through the headache of what integration module I need, what factory JBL integration module I need, what module do I need to keep my factory backup camera. You don't need any of that stuff. It's all done here for you in one kit. All right, so next what we're going to do is Android Auto connection. Basically, the steps are the same as they were with Apple CarPlay. Make sure you launch your CarPlay application, go to the hexagon, tell it to allow auto boot or not if you don't want it to auto connect when you get in and out of the car and you want to launch it yourself. by pressing the Android Auto application. Um, if you wanted to do that by itself, then that's fine. If not, then no worries. Once I've done that, I come in here and I kill the application. I'm going to go to my Bluetooth application. I'm going to search and pair new device. I'm going to come in on my phone. I'm going to go to connections. I'm going to go to Bluetooth. And I'm going to turn on Bluetooth. I am then going to scan. Sorry, Samsung phone still turning on Bluetooth. It looks like I am now, here is my Samsung phone's name. I'm going to select it. It should come up here and ask me if I want to pair with it. Yep, so pair with it. So once it shows that it's connected, so allow contacts, it says connected for calls and audio on my phone itself, and it's now going to launch Android Auto all by itself, since I said allow auto boot. When the unit pairs to Bluetooth, it automatically launches Android Auto. And this is how simple it should be. Like right now, it's still just trying to work itself out with Android Auto, but I mean, you know, there it is now. If I need to then change the view, then you know you're familiar with Android Auto and how it works, and so then that's my application for that. Here's the different apps that are on Android Auto, and this is all just feeding back off of the phone itself. But there you go. That would be my Spotify connection there, and it'll come up and show that down here with my maps up there, or you can change the view however you want to do it. Basically the connection is the same, and that's what I really like about this unit. You know, you're getting something that it is today's technology. This is not 3 years ago, 4 years ago, or 5 years ago. This is the most current and up-to-date unit you can ever get for your 2016 to 23 Tacoma. And so before we disconnect Android Auto, I know I've said this a couple of times, Android Auto could be wireless, or it could be wired through the phone link USB input, and it'll be through the plug that's labeled phone link. This is where wired Android Auto happens. CarPlay is only wireless, and really it has nothing to do with our factory. It's basically the application itself. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to delete this radio from this can unpair. I'm going to delete this radio from the unit itself, and I'm going to delete the phone from this unit, and I'm going to show you how I'll show you how it shows in regards to Android Auto being see how it shows right over here. There's a USB, and there's also a Bluetooth icon that's telling you that Android Auto is both wired and wireless. When you switch it to CarPlay, Bluetooth is the only option. So that's where you can tell that it is wireless Apple CarPlay and wireless and wired Android Auto. USB connection and Bluetooth, just to give you some more information about that. So guys, I really hope that you've enjoyed all this information. Before we go, what I'd like to do is show you that inside of this unit, there's also a user's manual that you can use. It's called the Foxit PDF. So when you open that, you're gonna get very brief information about the unit and things that you can do with it. You know, it is brief. It's gonna give you some information. I mean, these are the specifications, just so you guys get an idea. It does use 8 gigs of RAM as far as processing speed, and it has 128 gigabytes of built-in memory. It is a 13-inch HD radio, IPS 1200 by 1920. And then it's got all the different, things that it supports, that it doesn't support, and things like that. But it's also very important to have. It talks about the SIM card capability, the different languages that you can operate it under. And you know what? While we're here, one thing I didn't show you, and I will take the time to show you, is the built-in DSP processor that it has. So there's your DSP application, and so it'll have a 16-band EQ from 20 Hertz to 20,000 Hertz. It has preset EQ settings, but you can also change it, and you can set your own however you like. And once you've done it that way, you can save it on any one of the custom 3 options. So whatever you go through, you can always come back to it, no problem. You switch over to the left, it's going to have low, mid, and high crossover settings for your subwoofer outputs, including your high level outputs. If you're not using it with an amplifier, you can adjust the way the high level output sounds. This is your subwoofer gain control. This is your subwoofer frequency setting from 20 Hertz all the way to 250 Hertz. So I really like that feature. One of my other favorite features is time delay for staging. So if I was in the car by myself, I would probably put the stage right there where I am so that the sound sounds like it's around me. But if it's 2 of us in the car in the front, then I'll probably put the stage up in front of us, and I'll do something like this where the stage is directly in front of us. So I really like this feature because it's very entertaining. I'm an audiophile myself. You swipe again to the left, you have independent gain controls for front left, front right, rear left, and rear right. So your front, rear, and subwoofer outputs that are on the RCAs can be adjusted by using this DSP functionality, which is great. And so ultimately there's so much more, but I'll let you guys do some digging around, some questions that you might want to ask me that I may not have covered. Let's interact with each other and let's go over a few things. I'll be more than happy to assist. Just let me know if maybe I missed anything. I'll be more than happy to chime in. Thank you guys. And the next step is going to be the installation process. Stay tuned. Okay, so we are now sitting in the 2017 Toyota TRD Sport. This particular one, as you can tell, has the manual AC climate controls. It has the push to start button. The space right next to it is where the 4-wheel drive knob would be. This one is not a 4-wheel drive. And as you can tell, some of the things that we need to pay attention to is the hazards button, the theft deterrent LED indicator, and the passenger side airbag indicators, as well as the USB charging ports right down here. But one of the things that I really like about this new kit is how factory-like it is. It has the 2-tone panel that it comes with. This is the factory vents, the chrome trim rings around the vents. It blends in with this dash very nicely. So let's proceed with removing some of these components. Now, when it comes to disassembling this or taking the factory radio out, there's really no wrong way of removing this panel. You're going to start by removing the panel around the screen, and then you're going to remove the radio. It has 4 bolts, 2 on each side, that are holding it in place. Once you remove that, you're going to need to loosen up this bottom panel here that's right next to the steering wheel column. You don't have to remove the entire piece. You can just pop it out and unclip it from the side, because that's what's keeping the climate controls in place. It's all clips, but the climate control panel doesn't come out unless you lift this plastic panel here out of the way. So let me show you what I mean. All right, so now that we're sitting a little closer, I'm going to show you here. This panel simply pops right out. I'd like to reach for the area that has a little bit of grip, so I'd like to do that. And then this entire panel is gonna come right out. And while we're at it, I'm gonna show you, because you're gonna need to remove these vents from the factory panel. They're gonna get transferred over to the new radio panel, and it's 3 clips that are holding it in place. There's one here, there's another one here, and there's a third one right here. You don't need any tools. If you have nails, you could just use your nails to lift up on it and lift and pull. That's one. Here is the second one. Once you get the second one, the third one just pops right out like that. And then be careful, because as soon as that pops out, this piece is loose in there, and this is the piece that turns to be able to direct the air once it's in there. So those are the 3 clips, 1, 2, and 3. You really don't need any tools unless it's super tight. Then you can use a pick tool to pry these clips up and pull on the vent on the one side. Do the same thing with the second one, and once you've got any one of the 2 out, the third one just slides right out. So here is the second one. So I'm going to use my thumbnail to lift up and pull it out, and you feel it once it releases. And then I'm going to do the same thing with the second clip, like so. Now the whole thing, the third one, just slides right out like that. And so now you can put this panel off to the side, because you're not going to need any one of these clips. The new panel already comes with those. So then here are the 4 bolts that are holding the entire radio in place. And it's a simple number 10 socket. I happen to have one that's magnetic, so you could just 1, 2, here's the third one, and let's get the 4th one. Can't see it. You're not going to need these, because the new radio comes with 2 long bolts that are going to catch here and here. Now this is the plastic piece that I was telling you about. You're going to need to lift up on it. You can catch it from the gap that's between the steering wheel column and the panel itself. You can just pull that back like this, and this is all you need to do, because once you pull this out, then the climate control panel simply just pops right out. Okay, so here we have the factory radios completely out. Now I'm just going to share with you that not all of the plugs that are on the radio need to be disconnected, because the factory radio comes with this additional module that it's utilized for, I believe, satellite radio and Bluetooth in here. So this part can stay. Now, not every single one of the plugs that are on the radio is also going to get used on the new harness. Remember that inside of the kit, you're going to get 2 of the main harnesses, but only one of them is going to apply to your vehicle depending upon what generation it is. In this case, you could tell this is the 6 and 10 pin plug harness. This is the main power speaker plug. And then you'll see multiple antenna connections on the side here. Out of these 3 antennas, you're only going to use the AM/FM antenna. The other ones don't apply to the new radio. And then the rest of the plugs have to do with steering wheel controls, backup camera, and those different things. So let me show you, because I already have this main harness plugged in right inside of the dash. So let's go over that together. Before we go on, let's just talk about some common practices, some really good common practices, and this is going to help you avoid any accidents, because you don't want any of the wires that have live voltage to be shorting out back there. I know that they come with the gel tips to protect it, but in the process of you shoving all these harnesses in place, they could slide off and can pose problems in the future. So just some common practices. There's the DVR cable that has constant power, ignition, and ground. Keep the gel tips intact and tape them together, just so that there's no way that they can come off. As well as the backup camera cable, only remove the plastic cap from the reverse camera input, which is labeled factory cam input, if that's the only one you're going to be using. Don't remove the plastic caps from the plugs that you're not going to be using, like the side input or the front input, unless you are going to be using them. And then there is your camera power lines that are designed to power the cameras that you're going to be using to plug in here. Keep the gel tips intact and then tape them together so that these power lines aren't exposed or don't have the potential to lose the gel tips and then short out inside the dash. The other cable that I wanted to go over is remember, we went over this earlier, but I wanted to show it to you in the car because you get two of these USB extension cables. They both have the red plug, which is what's going to go into the radio, but on the other end, one of them has a gray plug and the other one has a black plug, and that has to do with the different generations of the Tacoma from 2016 to 2023. This happens to be a 2017, so the older version utilizes the black plug. The 2022 or 2023 model might use the gray plug. And what this plug here is designed to do is it's designed to keep function of the factory USB charging port that's down here. Now, that's the short cable. The long cable that is in here, which is the standard USB connection, this is what you could use for wired Android Auto. Remember, CarPlay is only wireless. So what I've done here is I've routed this cable down the back side of the dash, and I drilled a hole on the side of the glove box. And so this is where the phone link USB input is, as well as the other USB cable, the one that has the white plug, which is your standard USB input, so that you could plug in a memory stick with music on it. You saw that cable earlier. It's got to be here somewhere too. I've already done it. So let me show you where that one is. So that would be this white one here you saw earlier. So it was easier for me to show you how these plug into the back of the radio earlier when the radio was outside of the car than in here when it's in the car. So now let's go over the main harness. So here's the main harnesses. These are the antenna plugs that I was talking to you about earlier. These are the two that are not going to get used. The main AM/FM antenna plug is this one, and this is where the antenna adapter that we include in the kit, that's where it plugs into. And remember, it has that blue wire with a terminal on it. So this is going to plug into the back of the new radio. This is an amplified antenna. So what the new radio does is, from the main harness, here are the 1, 2, 3, 4 plugs from the car that you're going to be using into the new harness. And then we have the factory backup camera coming off the main harness, and that goes to our camera cable. Remember, the other ones that you're not using, try and keep the plastic caps intact. So this is the main harness. We already have our CAN bus module plugged in, which you saw earlier. These are the additional wires that don't get used with the gel tips taped together. And besides that, this is the 4 antennas that I mentioned to you earlier, the 2 4G LTE antennas, your Wi-Fi connection, and your GPS antenna. So that's as far as the radio connections go. What I'm going to do next is I'm going to go ahead and remove the climate control panel, which is right down here. Remember, we already released this here, so I could come in here and literally just pull this out, and then I'm going to disconnect it, and I'll show you the plugs from back there. All right, so now that we have the climate controls pulled out, in this case, like I mentioned to you earlier, this is the manual AC climate controls. So in the kit, you're going to get 2 of these climate control harnesses. They almost look the same, except for one of them has a 3rd plug on it. You're going to be using the one that's labeled Tacoma manual AC cable. The other one says Tacoma auto AC cable. And so the manual AC climate control version comes with both this plug and this bigger plug. The one with the auto climate controls only comes with the 1 plug. Now, this plug doesn't connect directly into the new radio, so that's why you get this harness. This particular harness is going to help you connect the AC plug into the new radio. This part is going to connect directly into the radio. The other side of this panel houses your push to start button. So what we're going to do is we're going to transfer the push to start button from this panel onto the new radios panel. And this is very simple. All you really have to do is you got to come in, and these two clips right over here, there's one down here and there's another one right up here. All you have to do is squeeze those together and the button will slide forward like this. So let's put this on the new panel and we're going to come back with the radio already installed. All right, so here are the different things that we're going to be transferring over, starting with the push start button. This cap simply just pops right out, and then all you're going to be doing is reinserting this in its place, like this right here, just like that. And then we're going to insert the vents that we removed from the factory panel back into here. And so remember, all you have to do is line up the 3 clips with the 3 clips that are on these vents. And once you've got them lined up, it basically just snaps into place like this. And then we're going to do the same thing with the other side right over here. Just line up the 3 clips and that's going to pop right in just like this, right over here. And so you want to make sure that you come to the front and that you test to make sure that they are fully functional on both sides. Do the same thing on the other side. So once you have all of your cables plugged in, the fun part is now stuffing everything back into the dash, making sure that none of the cables get crimped. And for the most part, the good thing about Toyotas is you normally have a lot of room inside the dash to fit all of those cables in there. And all you have to do is make sure that everything snaps in place and that everything lines up. And once all your edges and your trims are lined up, then the satisfying part is doing this. And sorry for the glare. You might get a little glare off the screen because of my backlight. But now this is what you're now left with. But I mean, like I was telling you, what I really like about this kit is how well it blends into the dash, the two-tone trim finish, the hard buttons, easy access right over here, not down here, and it's not all 100% touchscreen. And the other cool part is the fact that it is safer with these bolts in here, because these are going to catch the factory radio mounting parts. So once you get down here, you're going to be able to see where that lines up. And like I said, all you need is a T30 Torx bit to be able to put this and screw it into place. It lines up perfectly. Now, before you proceed to tighten up these bolts, make sure that you turn it on and make sure that everything is working. So I'm going to go ahead and start it up. And this is going to be the initial boot up process. Those take approximately 30 seconds to completely boot up. But from what I'm seeing, because it's a little darker and a little late during the day, and the light switch on the truck was set to on, so the lights already came on the outside of the truck. That's why we have our buttons nicely backlit. It looks like the AC is already on. Our hazards button is lit up. Our passenger airbag is telling us that it's off because there's nobody there. Originally, we had a Android phone paired with this. So what's going to happen is it's going to launch. It's going to try and connect to Bluetooth, and once it connects, it may launch Android Auto. But what it's doing now is it's showing me the climate control page to let me know that the AC is on. And in fact, if I go here, and it's coming out of the top of the dash and on my feet. So if I hit the mode button, it now will be coming through the front here. And I've got my gloves on, so I can't feel it as much, but I'll turn up the fan by pressing the plus. Or remember, multiple ways of doing one function. I also have fan up, fan down. I have temperature up, temperature down. So as you could see down here, now I don't know if you noticed this on the screen, but I told this radio to be dimmer at night than it was during the day. So for this video's sake, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go from the top to the bottom, and I'm going to make the brightness on the screen a little better so you could see more of what's going on. To get rid of the top screen, all you have to do is touch the main screen or let it go up by itself. So being able to adjust temperature by pressing the minus button, so I could bring the temperature down on either side, driver's side or passenger side, or the down arrow is going to adjust the temperature up and down, and it's going to open up the climate page. So remember, we talked about multiple ways of doing one thing. I'm going to go back to the home screen, and so this is basically the home screen. And remember, this unit is hooked up to a SIM card, so it's hooked up to a 4G LTE network. That's why my mapping is already working. I don't know if you see this yellow tint because we also have that enabled. So if you go into settings and you go into system, down here under Android settings, you have this display, and this is where I've turned on, sorry about that. So if I go into display, this is where I've turned on the night light, and it's set to turn on at sunset and turn off at sunrise. So for now, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to turn it off so that we get that blue tint back on the screen. And so like I was telling you, this is hooked up to a 4G LTE network, so my mapping is already giving me my location. We talked about features and functions earlier, but most importantly, I wanted to show you the climate controls now that we're in the truck and we're getting feedback from the car, so you could see that we're able to control that. So you see this page where it says climate, and it opens up. If you leave it intact, it'll time out after 10 seconds. Well, some people may like that, some people may not like that, some people may not want it to time out, some people may want it to take longer to time out. So that is a user selectable feature. All you have to do is go into settings, go into system, and in here under factory settings, enter the code 1660, press OK, and you're gonna swipe up and find a setting that's called climate timeout. Here, you can select 10 seconds, 15 seconds, 20 seconds, 30 seconds, or you can select off so that it never times out. So you have the option to do that with the climate control page. Personally, I'm okay with the 10-second only because once I'm done adjusting my temperature, once I'm done adjusting my fan speed, whether it's here or it's with the buttons over here, once I'm done, I want to go back to my home screen. So that's one of the things that I wanted to show you once we were in the car. And in here, remember, you swipe up and you have the car settings. Here is where everything that the factory radio had the ability to control, this is where that's going to be. TPMS information, it's given me the tire pressure information already. And so I haven't played any audio for you yet, but let's go ahead and launch the radio. And since we're already in night mode, we're already going to be here in darkness. So if I turn my lights off, it's gonna go to day mode. But if I turn my lights back on, it's gonna go to dark mode. So I'm gonna turn them off just so you could see the screen a little better in day mode through the camera lens. And so here is my audio. Let me just tune in a frequency by pressing and holding that button. And I get no sound. Sorry about that. So the reason why we were getting no sound earlier is because previously when I was going through the DSP adjustments, I had turned down the gains on my front and rear outputs. So here's what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put my EQ to flat. I'm going to come in here and readjust my staging so that it's in the center. And this is where I had turned down my gains, turn them back up, and this is why I was getting no audio. So now I could turn the volume up here. Let me go back to radio. So this is just FM, just to show you basically the audio function. And once you find your favorite preset, then you could find your, I'm going to mute the audio by pressing the speaker here. And so once you find a favorite preset, it's just a matter of pressing and holding it. And now that's going to be 97.3. And that's how you're going to be storing 18 FM presets. And so we also have control over volume using the steering wheel controls. We can also preset up and down. And so our steering wheel control buttons are already working. So besides this, car settings, the fit and finish, I think the only thing left to do, since we saw all the features and functions previously, at this point, it's just a matter of putting your bolts back in and calling it a day. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Like I mentioned to you earlier, make sure that you ask me any questions. If I forgot to mention anything, I'll be more than happy to assist. If there's anything you like or don't like, let me know. If there's any features or functions that you think we should add or remove, we're also interested in learning about that. Other than that, thank you guys for sticking along this long informational video. Hopefully you have gained something out of it. And we'll see you next time. Thanks for your time. Don't forget to put this panel back together down here.